10 commandments, the foundation all moral code was built on. Don't murder, don't covet oxes, who's got the best moonsault? That wasn't on there. It's the only thing wrong with that list. But it is on ours. We have literally improved the 10 commandments. And who will be the one to guide us into the light? None other than Adam Lompier. Oh, great list messiah, tell us what you rank at number 1. Tell us, we need your truth, we need the light.
You just off.
Lists, you motherfuckers! The purpose your life has been missing. Tomorrow.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk Stacked News and Stacked Review. I am Chopper Pete Quinnell. To start the episode today, let's get into a recap of last night's WWE SmackDown in about 5 minutes. The show opened with a video package highlighting that Goldberg is coming back tonight. Who's next and all that. Goodness. Can't wait to see his entrance. Miz and Morrison kicked off the actual show with a pre-made parody video of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on the return of the Dirt Sheet. This was really well made, and you can see the passion behind the project. It was great, though it didn't exactly make me more excited for their tag team championship match at Super Showdown. But Miz Dad was there, so it can't all be bad. The New Day came out afterwards to interrupt before the Usos also joined the party. This also brought out Rude and Ziggler, which allowed Miz and Morrison to beat up New Day a bit. After an ad break, it's the Usos versus Rude and Ziggler. After a fun competitive match, the Usos pick up the win, which seems to indicate that Miz and Morrison will be picking up the SmackDown Tag Team Championships at Super Showdown, and the Usos will be their first challengers, which makes sense and is a fresh matchup. Alexa Bliss tells Nikki Cross she's going to win the Women's Fatal 4-Way main event to become the #1 contender to the SmackDown Women's Championship, before there's a recap of Corbin being covered in dog food from last week. Corbin doesn't like this, however, and throws the video production guy down the stairs for daring to play it. Elias is in the ring next doing a song before he gets interrupted by Sami Zayn and Cesaro. Cesaro and Elias have a decently competitive match, which Elias wins with an elbow drop. I'm not really sure where this feud is going. Finally, they reveal Goldberg is coming up next, and they show him getting mic'd up at home for a via satellite interview. That is horrifically misleading, and I can bet the San Jose crowd were pissed that they didn't get to see Goldberg live, especially with how heavily it was being advertised. But it's not actually Goldberg next because King Corbin comes out instead. He complains some more about Roman Reigns because apparently this feud is still going on despite it finishing at the Royal Rumble and last week, and he says he wants one more match with Roman, and then he pours a drink on a fan. Boo. This brings out Roman, who beats up Corbin a little bit, and then says he'll give him one more match, but it'll be inside a steel cage, which is what it should have been at Royal Rumble. Can this please be the end of this feud? Now it's finally time for Goldberg live via satellite. And he says he watched the Royal Rumble and it gave him the itch. Brock is all tied up with Ricochet and Drew McIntyre coming for the WWE Championship, but what about the Universal Championship? He then promptly gets interrupted by a Firefly Funhouse, and Wyatt accepts the match on behalf of The Fiend. Goldberg says he's not intimidated by any of the mind games, and then says, "You're next," and then walks off, and then Wyatt says, "Let me in," and then the segment ends. Goldberg versus The Fiend at Super Showdown. I don't know how to feel about it. I feel like it could be a good match if they book it right, but it has to last about a minute, and Fiend has to win, obviously. All of Wyatt's feuds as The Fiend have been rooted in history and lore of the Wyatt character, but this Goldberg match sticks out like a sore thumb. They've never interacted before, and the match is completely thrown together for the Saudi show like it always is for Saudi shows. I just hope this doesn't derail The Fiend at all. Daniel Bryan is backstage before Heath Slater comes up to him and tells him he was stupid for doing a strap match against The Fiend, but in a nice, "I just wanted to check up on you" kind of way. Bryan requests a match with Slater right then and there, and Slater seemed a little bit confused. They had that match next, and Bryan went full aggression mode, which was amazing to see. The crowd at the start were fully into Bryan and the yes chants, and as the match progressed, Bryan got more and more aggressive, hitting the running knee but not ending the match, instead stomping on Slater's face more and more. The cheers subsided, and the crowd were really not sure whether to cheer or boo Bryan. This wasn't a heel turn, but it was amazing character development for Bryan. Has the Fiend changed him again? There's a quick recap of Braun winning the Intercontinental Championship next, before he's interviewed by Renee Young. Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn interrupt, and they demand a rematch for the Intercontinental title. Rematch clauses aren't a thing, unless they're a thing. Braun says he'll fight for the title any place, any time, and Nakamura and Zayn say they will have a rematch, just not tonight. Zayn goes on to say he'll use all their resources, which brings out the Revival to attack Braun from behind. The segment ends with Nakamura standing tall over Strowman after delivering a Kinshasa. Otis has a date with Mandy Rose next week, so we see him getting ready for it in a montage video. This was good and funny at times, but it could have been so much better. Sheamus kicked Apollo Crews' head off next, before then kicking Shorty G's head off, who came out to save Crews. Is this feud still going on? Why? And in the main event, it was a fatal four-way between Naomi, Carmella, Alexa Bliss, and Dana Brooke for the #1 contendership to Bayley's SmackDown Women's Championship. Naomi is the only one of the four that got an entrance, and she had a face-to-face with Bayley last week, so it's pretty obvious that she'll be the one to win, right? Well, after a decent match, Naomi looked to have the match won after countering a Twisted Bliss into a rear view, before Carmella came out of nowhere to hit 2 super kicks on Naomi for the win. Bayley immediately rushes into the ring and delivers a headlock driver thing, which leads to Carmella looking mildly put out rather than selling being in pain. I've seen a lot of people online be very confused by Carmella winning, and I am too, but in all honesty, I don't mind it. They're still building Naomi for something. She was super dominant in this match, so they're most likely saving her for Elimination Chamber or maybe even WrestleMania. They didn't mention it on the show, but in other press releases, it's been stated that Bayley vs. Carmella will take place in Saudi Arabia at Super Showdown, which will be the second women's match there after Natalya vs. Lacey Evans last year. Perhaps this is why Naomi didn't win, as she doesn't want to go to Saudi or something like that. I wouldn't read too much into her losing. It was a cheap victory for Carmella, and Naomi's momentum hasn't really been derailed from this at all. And that was the show. Let me know what you thought of the show by pressing the I above my head to vote in the poll, where you can choose from Smacknificent, Smacktastic, Smack Bang in the Middle, Smack Downer, and a Smack in the Face. It was nice that Corbin and Reigns didn't open or close the show, so that's nice, but seriously, why is their feud still going on? It's already ended twice. To advertise Goldberg and not have him appear in person is an absolute farce, and I don't really know how to feel about him just being thrown together with The Fiend. Everything else on the show was fine, but I've been saying for weeks that it just feels like the same show time and time again. A lot of these feuds just need to move on and keep the wrestlers away from each other. Until then, SmackDown will continue to be boring and stale, which is such a slap in the face when they're doing such amazing stories over on Raw. You know you can do it, WWE, you're just choosing not to. This SmackDown gets a SmackDowner. And now, over to me for the news. Hot tag. Before we get into the news, a massive thank you to Kratos' forgotten son, Christos Petru, for being an awesome pledge hammer on Patreon. While NXT is by popular opinion WWE's best brand in terms of in-ring action, it doesn't mean that things outside of the ring are always so rosy. The sheer amount of people signed to the developmental brand means that unless you're one of the top 20 to 25 stars, you may struggle to get a decent amount of screen time. Just in the last week, they've signed Killer Cross and Timothy Thatcher, who you'd expect to see battling away in the upper mid-card or main event scene pretty soon. So does that mean someone else has to miss out? On the women's side of things, you've got a pretty fixed and stacked main event and mid-card scene, and now and then you'll see a different face like Casey Catanzaro or Caden Carter. One of these faces is Brazilian Tainara, former Tainara Conti before WWE's Name Police imprisoned her surname. More on that later. Tainara is a black belt in judo and a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so she had plenty of fighting pedigree when she was signed to NXT in 2016. Despite appearances in the Mae Young Classic and becoming the first ever Brazilian to compete at WrestleMania in the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal in 2018, Tainara has done very little else, which is a shame because she has shown real glimpses of potential. Unfortunately for fans of hers, it appears her time in NXT could be over, as Fightful reported last night that Tainara had walked out of NXT over what is thought to be a contract dispute. We're told in the middle of January, Conti had a disagreement with WWE and walked out. Most at the WWE Performance Center we've spoken to believe it's financially motivated, but we've not confirmed that. It was noted that her locker was cleared out, however. This would be a huge shame for Taynara and for NXT because there's no reason she couldn't have made it as a regular on Wednesday nights. There's been nothing official from WWE, and as far as we can see, Taynara hasn't made any comments on social media, so for now at least, it appears she is still with the company. But if she's refusing to show up for work, this may not be the case for much longer. If the issue was financial, and given how much cash Vince is throwing at literally everyone who's ever stepped into a WWE-owned building, you'd think that perhaps stars are trying to negotiate their way into much bigger contracts. Little tip, halfway through your contract meeting, just go AEW, and you'll probably get what you want. Now I'd like to get serious for a minute while we remember those names we have lost in the last few years. No longer is he Antonio Cesaro. No longer is he Alexander Rusev. What happened to Otis, Dozovic, and Tucker Knight? Where did Ali's Mustafa go, and why did it come back? Rest in peace, Conti, formerly of Taynara. Adios, Cruz of Apollo, which then came back a couple of weeks later. Cien Almas is no more, leaving Andrade behind and lonely. And now, I'm afraid I have to report the latest superstar named Death, which has occurred on Raw. Following his heel turn, Vince McMahon clearly decided being called Buddy was too much of a babyface move, so the Raw Tag Team Champions are now Seth Rollins and Murphy. Just Murphy. When Murphy got called up to the main roster, there was speculation this would happen, along with Aleister Black being just called Alistair or something. And now it appears it's finally happened. Though with Vince's track record, it might be back in a couple of weeks when he changes his mind. Having said that, I would like to announce that I will now be known simply as Quinnell, and all my colleagues Davis, Owen, Blake, Longdon, Blompier, and Datsun are fully supportive of my decision. Rest in Pete. Are WWE selling WrestleMania 36? Press the video to the right to find out more, and the video below that to find out more about Vince McMahon wanting Chris Jericho back in WWE. A special thank you to our pledge hammers on Patreon, some of whom you see scrolling below me right now. I've been Chopper, not Pete Quinnell, and that was wrestling.